Hello, everyone, and welcome to the the November, what is this, the 28th? 28th meeting of the Architectural and Historical Review Board for the Village of Dobbs Ferry. First item on the agenda is 127 Main Street. Okay. Why don't we can, I think, based off of individual reviews that have happened outside of the meeting, as we've met with the applicant separately. You know, I don't know how you guys feel about trying to vote. Or do you want them to present the last application? I think the last thing was to go, I've seen it, only because I've physically seen the sampling, as I pick up my children from there every week, but, oh, there you go.
So you went and you saw the sign against the brick?
Yeah, it's just it's just simplistic.
Without the back.
Without the background.
And it looks okay?
It just looks like the material without a background that's just mounted there.
That was his original application.
Yeah, that.
Hello, how are you? Are you here
Good.
for 127 Main Street?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I was having a little trouble with the connection.
No problem.
And I can share documents if helpful.
That would be great.
Please.
Okay. This is like prime bedtime. So I apologize.
I apologize, I was running late for that exact reason.
I got out before.
Yeah, sometimes you got to get out before it starts. Okay. Okay, do you see my screen?
There we go. Perfect. Yep.
So did we do a recap of kind of where we are?
Yeah, I personally was not able to attend the initial application presentation, but understood that there was some concern with the initial background on the main garage pod signage at the main storefront. And I think some of us board members were able, specifically myself, were able to go and look at the material adjacent to the brick. So I didn't have any exceptions to the material on the brick itself. It I think is in kind of keeping with the theme of what's there, but I welcome other thoughts from the board.
I think the only question is whether there was enough contrast between that and the brick. So your opinion was that enough?
As the sole opinion, I guess so, yes. So I think the darker letters were fine with what it was. I don't know if there's any other options. I don't think there's any other options given the same lettering that is being proposed.
Right.
And where it's being proposed. I think, I like it without the old background.
Right.
But I think it looks much better adjacent and just directly mounted to the brick.
Okay.
But, so I endorse it, but I'll, you know,
Is there any neighbors?
any neighbors, anyone else from the village?
No.
So as long as that
Yeah, that's-
satisfies the rest of the board, then
Signage is
I think
appropriately
it's
sized.
Legible.
I think it's code compliant from a size perspective. So I will make a motion to approve this application as revised and submitted. Do I have a second? Eric seconds. All in favor? Good luck
Thank you.
with installing the new signage. Next on the agenda is 12 Brace Terrace.
I don't think there's, is the owner hung? Yeah, the owner called me today. Him and his spouse aren't well, so he doesn't have that, he couldn't make it here personally, and he doesn't have Zoom capability. So all he asked was that the board listen to, it's a code compliant deer fence,
Okay,
but he wanted to listen to the comments and then make a decision.
okay. So, and who may you be?
I'm David Tabakoff, I'm a neighbor,
Okay,
and we are concerned about the deer fence for a number of reasons.
okay,
First off, this is also a combination of style, aesthetics, and also legal stuff, which I think not your bailiwick, but as I pointed out to our neighbor, there's a covenant in the property area of Grace Terrace requiring permission for any fence above 3 feet. Most of the houses there have no fences between them. Now there have been some fences over time, usually around 3 to 4 feet. This deer fence is 6 feet, as you said, is code compliant. I think if you look at the neighborhood, it really is going to be quite unattractive. If you look at the 2 pictures that they posted in the,
Can you share that project?
just one point, the covenant is a verbal agreement between
No, no,
neighbors, or it's a
original
written?
grantor of the Grace Terrace plat, and that's for the documents,
Perfect.
has a provision.
Well, that, our village attorney is looking at that.
Okay,
We're here just to see the fence.
Right,
see if it-
from a architectural
Yes.
perspective. Okay. So what does this get deferred to, John? Is this just deferred to the building department via the, or is
Yes,
it
if
planning
you're gonna approve it with the condition of hearing from, or
or that? Got it, okay.
hearing from the attorney. If the attorney feels that the covenant is still in effect,
Mm-hmm,
then we would deny the application because the covenant says no more than 3-foot fence.
got it, okay.
With that permission.
Just a picture of the fencing.
See it from the
There's 2 pictures of fencing.
That looks
It's a
solid
commercial,
metal.
Yes,
that's a
it is.
commercial, that's not a deer fence.
That is.
So that's the fencing.
That's one of them. Then that one, I think, perhaps you could, well, that's the house. There's that one, and there's that one. Now, the issue is that if our entire neighborhood ends up with everybody putting up deer fencing like this, Grace Terrace, which I don't know if you guys have been past our area, which is a very pretty little street, I think is just gonna look, it's gonna deteriorate, degrade the quality of the street. We have spoken to our neighbor about making a lower fence in the past. Obviously, if it's deer they're worried about, I guess there's an issue about 6-foot fences versus 4 foot. Basically, I think this is a bad look for us on our neighboring property. And one area of the property, if you look at, there's a survey there too.
Yes, the other document. The other submittal and the, yeah.
No, right below. No, that one, yeah. So, if I could just show you guys, this area over here is our garage. We're gonna have a 6-foot fence, 13 on the garage, it's gonna be very close. It's gonna feel, I think, closed in. Secondly, there's a whole line of forsythia that's been there for, we've been giving them 1980.
Can you please speak near the mic so that you can be heard on the recording?
Is that better?
Yes,
My
thank
point
you.
being that some of this fence will be pretty close to our garage and will create between us walking path between our garage and the property line, a fence, 6 foot high mesh. I just don't think that's very attractive. Secondly, the forsythia bushes, which have been here for decades, I have no idea from our neighbor whether they're going to have to try to tear those down to build this property line deer fence. So you put it all together, I think it just is very poor for the village to have Grace Terrace degraded that way.
Okay. I appreciate your thoughts. I'm going to open up to the board to talk through the application and their thoughts on architecturally. when it comes down to the fence style, I can appreciate you wanting to, and wanting everybody to be neighborly. Obviously, they have the ability, if they want to keep deer out of their yard, you know, that's within their right, but at the same time, we want to make sure that the deer fencing is in keeping with the neighborhood. So, Dale, anything to initially comment on?
The fence appears to be at the rear of the property, and if the village code allows for a 6-foot fence around the property, then it's allowable, because he could put any kind of fence as long as it complies with code, and it's not in conflict with any of the covenants.
Okay, Eric?
The reason it had to come before AHRB is that's the way our law is set up now.
Mm-hmm.
That's why he's here, just because he needs to be, you know, heard if there's a complaint.
Yeah. I mean, I think, you know, I understand what you're saying. I think it is, you know, a slightly unsightly type of fence, right? To kind of make your home, because it's not a very big property. Usually, I think you use deer fencing when you have a larger property.
More agricultural than residential.
Yeah, it's usually, or if you have a larger estate and you want to fence in a certain area of the property for deer or whatever to keep things in or out. So I think, yeah, in its application, it's kind of making it look like a zoo enclosure in a sort of way, right? It's not like a cedar
And
shingle.
if you think about the gate, she's gonna face the street. That's not just rear, no one sees it, first of all, it's in the rear, I see it. Secondly, front, you see the gate area, you see, which will look, just like you said, it's like an enclosure.
Yeah, so they're gonna have like a matching gate kind of towards your property's garage, right?
Well, towards, the gate is
Facing the-
facing front towards the street.
But it's gonna be closest to your property. So, you know, is
And
it?
there is a lot of properties in Dobbs Ferry that if they want to plant, obviously the deer eat
Yeah,
everything.
you know.
Yeah, understood.
So there's quite a few, Clinton Avenue was just approved for the same fencing.
Yeah, so it's hard
Well,
hard for me to be.
I don't know if it's the same exact specification of fence. It was definitely a deer fence, but there are
Deer
different,
fence, it may not
there are
be that
different
exact
types.
spec. but-
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a more aesthetic version of deer fence that exists, but, you know, I mean, also, you know, it seems like a little bit like our hands are tied with the code, right?
Well, I would-
It's a 6-foot fence.
So, two thoughts from my side. One is, I think your neighbor has a right to put up a fence. So I don't think that that's something that falls, unless in the covenant dictates that it's not allowable, that's a different case. If a fence is allowable via the covenant, they're well within their right to do it. I do take exception to the type of fence, and given the concerns from the neighbors, I think that there may be alternative type deer fencing that may be able to accomplish the same end, but in a more aesthetically pleasing fashion to the, first of all, facing the street, where, at the gate location. I think that frontage needs to be treated as an architectural fence, not a deer fence. But I would also say that there are ways of accomplishing a 6-foot fence in a more architectural way to accommodate it. So what I would say, given that this is our last board meeting as the AHRB, I think a continuation of this would defer to planning. How does that?
Yes, as of Thursday, planning will be combined, planning AHRB.
So
So it would continue until probably the next planning board meeting, which is January.
So I think with the legal review of the covenant, given the timing of where
Right.
things stand, in the spirit of trying to be neighborly and trying to keep neighborly relations, what I would say to the applicant is that they should review the fence plan to look at, and these are comments that we can carry through to recommendation to planning, is that the gate in the front-facing portion of the fence be treated as an architectural fence that can be in keeping with the neighborhood, but still meet a 6-foot requirement, because it is set back from the property to keep the deer out, and that an alternate deer fencing be considered as a less commercial type look, that maybe has more transparent netting, more openness to the mesh itself, and that can be a little bit more in keeping with the neighborhood. There are natural wood posts that you can do with different wires that still can accommodate and keep deer out, where you can have a 4-foot fence with with lines at the top to keep them out at the 6-foot range. And I've seen all over town, different variations of deer fencing. But I do think that if the covenant is not applicable, the fencing is unavoidable, and it will end up being a decision to the new now combined architectural and planning board at their next meeting. So,
I appreciate that, thank you.
so, okay, so,
And I guess when you have a view on the covenant, do I get notified about that?
You wouldn't get notified, the owner would get notified.
I see.
but I don't think that if the timing aligns where it wouldn't make it to a planning board, the next planning board agenda, if
No,
the
because it's
covenant
Thursday.
Yeah.
does not allow for it,
No.
right? So, okay,
We want to get the answer from the
right.
The attorney,
first.
the village attorney will take a look at it, come up with a decision, let the neighbor know.
Yes, he's had it for a week,
Oh,
so he'll look at it, and, because he has to investigate if there's been changes to the covenant.
which they haven't, but he should
Well,
obviously look.
we can't
John,
do-
he obviously should look, I'm just telling you, nothing's changed over the years, because this came up with us and these people a couple of years ago, but I appreciate your decision. John, I thank you very much.
Yeah, so my motion for this meeting would be to continue this application to the joint planning board and architectural review board meeting. And I highly recommend that they seek legal counsel's recommendation on the covenant that exists prior to that application being heard. Do I have a second to continue?
Second.
Dale seconds. All in favor? All in favor? Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. 49 Cricket Lane is our next application. And thank you for attending in person, by the way, for our last meeting.
Thank you for your help. Thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Is Alan?
Alan?
Should I start?
Yeah, 49 Cricket Lane. Thank you very much.
Yeah, my name is Alan Ross. I'm the architect representing Nick and Kristen Willoughby, who are owners of 49 Cricket. And we were previously approved by the AHRB and now are requesting approval for a couple changes in material, primarily in color.
Great. Can you share your application, please?
Sure. So I'll start with the pages that have changed. So this is just the cover sheet, and the only thing that's changed on here is we've added a sheet to the set. This is the side elevation. To the right is south, and to the left is north. So we're currently looking at the west elevation. And what we're noting is that the roof here, projecting roof, is now slate as opposed to a wood shingle. It was previously a cedar shingle roof, and now it's going to be a slate roof. Likewise, this roof here, well, all the normal slope roofs will be slate. This roof, the little portico roof, and the minor additional roof will all be slate. The other thing to note is that the gutters have been changed from being all copper to being brown aluminum gutters and downspouts and brackets. The flashing, however, will still be copper. We'll have copper flashing around on all the windows and doors and everywhere.
Those gutters shown in elevation or in the rendering?
Yeah, you can see, that's the downspout, and this is the gutter here. It's a half round gutter, so it doesn't have the typical lines of a K gutter OG. We have done that before, where there was a sort of a value engineering thing. The slate was more expensive, and to compensate, we went with the copper gutters. They actually look pretty good, the brown aluminum gutters. This is a pastor's house in Old Greenwich, and you can see from distance that the brown really looks pretty much like a dark brown patina on a copper gutter. This is up close. We're still, using the same brackets and hangers and tie downs that you'd find with a copper gutter. So the same grammar. And then the slate is going to be a mixture of green and purple. And that's coming from Greenstone Slate in Vermont. So I think it'll be a nice mixture. It'll feel very authentic. It will be authentic, actually. And continue with the drawings. The colors have changed slightly, going with the darker shutter, slightly darker blue, and that's pretty much it. On the shingles, the shingles are still pre-finished Mabec cedar shingles, and we tried to kind of give an indication of the green and purple on the slate roof to present that here. So kind of gives you a sort of a sense of what that would be like. I think it goes well with the color of the siding. So it's kind of I always say a conservative treatment of the house in terms of its colors and materiality. One thing that was requested by the last AHRB, at the last AHRB hearing was to submit a full sky exposure plane plan, which we did. It was requested that we give it directly to the building department, which we did, but the board, the AHRB board, had seen it, so I just wanted to include it here, showing that we're fully compliant with the requirements for the sky exposure plane. And that's pretty much it for the changes.
So there's no gutter at the portico or at the portico over the garage? Correct?
Yeah, there isn't. No. Here we're showing elevation. There's going to be a diverter strip. It's just a sort of rather than kind of complicate things with downspouts and the angled brackets and stuff like that. We decided we would just accept the fact that there was going to be a little bit of dripping.
So on the face of the house, there are only two major leaders dropping down on either side of the house.
That's right there and right there. That's correct. So you're basically taking care of that. And we've done calculations on the 10-year storm, and the downspouts are fine for that.
Okay. Well, thank you. It's a very nice submission. I'll open it up to comment.
Any other hand raised?
No neighbors? Start with some comments. Eric, you want to start this one?
Sure. I remember when it came before last time, so I think the slate's probably an improvement for the roof, and I don't really mind the ground gutters and the shingles. Fine. Okay.
I think it looks great. The slate is definitely an improvement.
Yeah. And
Surprisingly, the slate was actually, and some aspects of the slate were less expensive than the wood shingle roofing. It required some more structural work to support the slate, but the material itself was less expensive. Just point of interest.
it is interesting.
That is interesting.
And yeah, like my fellow board members, I don't take any exception to the change in roofing material. The shutter color, I think, is in keeping with the house, and the brown gutters. Copper's all well and good, but it turns brown after a year anyway. So
Right.
I think all of those factors considered, I think it's a well thought out application, and I make a motion to approve this application as submitted. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dale seconds. All in favor? Approved. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
Don't end yet.
I gotta do you got like a speech for me to do?
Go ahead, Matt.
Yeah, I'm mute.
You're on mute, Matt.
I could have given that whole thing and not been heard. I just wanted to take an opportunity to extend to the outgoing members of the AHRB the thanks for all of your service from the Board of Trustees. You three gentlemen and Yair and Dipti have done, and am I forgetting somebody who's not there?
Paul.
And Paul have sacrificed a lot of time, a lot of energy to making sure that Dobbs Ferry's all the projects that are coming through Dobbs Ferry are a net plus for the village, and for that we thank you for your service, for your time, and we release you back to your families.
Well, thank you very much, Matt. Much appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you.
It's been our pleasure.
And my
Well-
pleasure to deal with you guys as well.
Yeah, I don't know what you're gonna do, have not being able to corral us around to make sure that we have a quorum anymore. It's gonna make your Mondays much less exciting,
For sure.
right? Well, with that said, on behalf of the board, on behalf of my fellow board members, I want to thank the town, the village. I'd like to thank the Board of Trustees. I think the move to combine the boards will help streamline and make some efficiencies within the village from a planning and approval process. And look forward to, being able to help in that endeavor as well as needed, if the need should arise. So with that said, I will make a motion to adjourn our final AHRB meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dale seconds. All in favor? On behalf of the other board members, I am in favor as well. So thank you very much, and have a good evening.